Okay, let's look at another GMT game. This one, so far, I haven't seen any problems with it in terms of production, but Prime Minister. Now, it's kind of a weird situation because I've been kind of cutting back on games that, I don't know that I absolutely want. Unfortunately, even in attempting to do that, I still see so many things as GMT brings them out on P500, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of really want that. And this is one of those that I should not have bought. Not because I'm not going to like it. I think I actually really am. I don't know yet. But because I never have room for anything in the fall sale. I've ordered everything that is of interest to me. A lot of the things that they're putting out on, that they're putting out recently that I can easily pass on are reprints of stuff I have, or just games that I'm like, yeah, another fucking World War II game. I'm not interested in that. They're also, and this counts as part of that, moving away from as much of a wargaming focus and finding that they can get more sales, with their non-wargaming goods. And I honestly think that that may be some of where any kind of decrease in their quality control is coming, is that some of these games take less effort to get right. Among other things, one of their big problems with quality control has been counter sheets. Well, this doesn't have a counter sheet. It's got little wooden cubes. Little wooden cubes are hard to get completely wrong, right? Okay, let's take a look. There's a lot of different games in this box, in a sense. What it's primarily about appears to be, from my reading of the rules and nothing else, managing the parliamentary system for elections in order to get your party elected, preferably while you're in the lead of the party, and the bills that aid your party or that your party supports passed. Basically, win elections and govern effectively, according to your ideology. And that's basically what you're going to get victory points off of. Victory points are going to be tracked over here. You can see there's only one victory point marker. That's one of the kind of curious things about the game. There's something called victory point pooling. At the beginning of the game, in the standard game, there's a pact, which is basically the liberals and conservatives have agreed to generally just support the government and to work together on a coalition. And not to be as partisan. And in that case, all the players, all four players, move forward at the same rate. And you're like, oh, how are you going to win that? Okay. By cleverly choosing your point at which to break the pact, or by cleverly choosing, as the government backbencher, when to present a challenge to the Prime Minister. And we'll see how that works in terms of mechanisms in a little bit. That's how the standard game kind of starts. In addition to the standard game, and we have a 65-page rule book here. We'll look at the components in a little bit. But in reality, some of these are there's big examples of play and whatnot. We're actually only talking about 22 pages to the base scenario. Okay. Beyond the base scenario, there's a sequence of historical scenarios. The base scenario basically says, let's just throw all the cards, all the events that happened during the Victorian age, all the different bills, and not really have any goal beyond that general, let's try to win elections and get our kind of bills passed. The scenarios tend to have very specific conditions on them. First of all, limited events and bills available and whatnot, limited supporters, limited politicians. You'll have specific politicians here in play. And sometimes very special victory conditions that are involved in it. Finally, remember there was a 65-page book here? There's another 56 pages for essentially a completely different game system, the Clockwork system, which allows you to play at solitaire. I'm not bothering with that at all, but that sucker comes with a deck of special cards to handle that, a set of its own events to take play, and its own player components that are separate. This is not part of Clockwork. This is an option to make things easier. These are additional player aids from the base, and this is the Clockwork main player aid. Okay, let's take a look at what we have and what we don't. We have everything. We have extras. This is something GMT does that I think is really wonderful. They put an extra of each, of most of the wooden pieces. There's 3 of them that are an optional rule that they did not, that you need, each one's different, and you know, the idea of producing twice as many just seems goofy. But anyway, what do we have? We have a board that represents victory points up here, nothing exciting there. These are different sectors of the electorate. And some of them are geographical, like Scotland. Oops, like Scotland here. But most of them represent, you know, things like conservatives in general, farmers, gentry. Ireland's also geographic. Conceivably, voters can sit in multiple of these. That's no big deal. It's just showing you, if you own a certain proportion of these, you have a certain level of popularity coming from that. We have the election. I'm sorry, I'm kind of really tired because, I don't know, I got to bed, goddamn, I don't know when, probably 8 a.m. or so, and woke up at around 1:30, and I'm just pretty tired. I needed to change things a little bit because I was waking up too late to go dancing and I've got to go tomorrow, so I need to kind of try to perturb that a little bit. But anyway, here you'll be keeping track of what based on these values here, what the projected election results will be. Now those aren't certain, hence we have an uncertainty deck, which I'll have some words about, but which allows you to kind of randomize within those effects. And then other events can change the voting habits everywhere. Favor, this is how much the Queen likes you. And you're going to be able to take certain actions to take advantage of that. And having that favor can help you in certain cases. Some of the bills and whatnot that you pass might change your favor. Number of bills might be up for bid. And then they have their likelihood of winning a vote in Parliament. The election is the vote for MPs, etc. This is the general view of the national will. I'll get to this in a moment. Here we track the tenor of the governing party in terms of how many of its MPs are in existence to begin with. That's 330. And then how many are moderates and how many are partisans. And that should add up to be the equivalent of the full government MP. That's going to be important in terms of passing votes. The government has to maintain a majority of 330 votes to pass a bill. What else do we have? Okay. Well, that's the board. We have a couple of things that we hold here. The pact style of government is marked by that card being there. And if the government's backbencher character resigns, he's then able to kind of oppose the government in certain ways. All right. We have up to 4 players. The game can handle 2 or 3 though, without resorting to a clockwork. I think that's only for solo. You have a set of, I don't know how many, like 8 on a side or something, maybe more than that. Well, it looks like 10 on a side at least. Politicians, and they'll have a little, what are those? I don't know. I wanted to say seal, but a little ribbon or whatever to indicate their party alignment. The red is the liberals because commie liberal scum. And the blue is the conservatives because conservative blue bloods. No, these are the actual colors they used. I've got a little bit of a gripe about this. I just naturally wanted to put the liberals on the left. I think everyone was following that at that point, calling the liberal side left and the conservative side right. That was something that started in the French Revolution. So I think the Brits were using that already. But when we look over here, the conservatives are over to the left and the liberals are to the right, and I'm kind of considering whether I need to switch everything. I kind of don't want to though, but it's gonna create a certain dissonance to me to have the blue. Anyway, leave that as it is. All right. Each of these politicians has a set of skills, and they're different for each politician, and they will each have one skill at rating 2, and the rest of their skills at rating 1. And higher is better. I gotta swap batteries. The player also has, I don't know what to call this, a player, starts with an M, whatever it is. A player placard, let's just call it. It's not the word I'm looking for, but. And this is gonna tell you some things that you have special based on your role. There are 4 roles in the game, basically. The Prime Minister, who is the leading member of his party when his party is in power. The opposition leader, the leading member of the party that's not in power. And then backbenchers, who, there we go. For both the opposition and for the government. And they spell out some capabilities, whatever. First of all, a set of different actions that position allows you to do. So those are going to perhaps align with your capabilities. Campaign, debate, hobnob, influence. Yeah, so for example, if you look here, Russell has campaign, Melbourne does not. Melbourne has flatter, which Russell does not. I don't know, I think they're all listed here. And if you're a level 1 in that, you're capable of, in this case, for example, you can get a +1 in your favor if you do that. If you're level 2 in something like he is with Hobnob, you're able to do this level 2 effect here, which I believe allows you to draw 2 supporters and keep one of the 2. It just gives you a little bit more power when you have a capability to do that. Now let's keep looking. This is just a reminder that when you become the PM, you get 6 victory points for it. This is your standing. Your standing is going to be a reflection of how well you've succeeded in a lot of ways. And if you buck against your party, etc., your standing is going to go down. Now, the PM has different limits. So the PM's minimum standing is 5, their maximum is 14. The backbencher goes from 0 to 8, okay? Which is important because the backbencher gets to replace the prime minister only if he has, I think, at least, definitely higher standing, maybe just at least as much. But I think it's actually higher. And is able to, conduct a challenge and then take over the party. Now, in each of these scenarios, you only have 4 characters. You're not going to be doing a Republic of Rome type thing where people die off, etc. So you're not going to be playing out the whole Victorian age, presumably. And in a way, the standard scenario, which is what I'm going to play first, and then decide whether or not I want to do the historical stuff, is kind of, it's a little fuzzy on the history side of things. Because I think it can last very long, and it throws all the decks together, well, it throws all the eras together and whatnot. It doesn't really, and the personalities might remain the same throughout the entire Victorian era if the game goes on very long. But that's neither here nor there. It's just, as a concept, it's probably, it's kind of like, hey, let's take a multi-deck CDG and shuffle all the decks together, in terms of like getting any kind of historical accuracy out of it. And there are a few other factors in it that feel a little weird. But I want to play this because it's the simplest of the games to play, even if it might be the longer. Oh, I didn't talk about this. This is an indication that there's a potential election pending, but the PM is able to withdraw this in certain cases, well, most of the time, and delay the election until the next time that it would have to be called. And then if he's holding this sucker, he can't do it again. Okay. We also have special abilities here, like draw an event card at the start of your action turn, that just, tell you something you have to do. Now, the backbenchers are a little different. They don't have level 2 capabilities. They're only able to do their level 1 effect. So, the fact that he has 2 influence, it doesn't help. He also has less actions available to him, which may be a real pain in the ass if he doesn't match up to those actions and therefore can't actually do them. Oh, I didn't mention the standing determines how many action cubes you get. These are the action cubes. So on each turn, he's going to have 3 of these, and it's kind of like a worker placement type thing. You get to use them to do something, and you place it on the something that you do. To do an action. So the backbenchers, in addition to having, well, everybody except the Prime Minister, in addition to having sort of their own card in here, at the end of your action turn, you gain, I think that's a status. In addition to that, may have additional cards. Now, there's 3 types of cards that the government backbencher has. These are positions, which he's able to get by having the requirements listed. And so here, you'd have to have favor of the Queen greater than or equal to 5, and you'd have to have a status of 8, which is the top, and then you could claim this, and it would give you that capability. There's 3 slots. I think that's a limitation. There's a number of different things, and you basically are working your way through the party to make your way up to being important enough to challenge the Prime Minister. Your resignation card is a way that you indicate how, what happens when you resign from the government. You lose your office, but you're then able to debate the government using the debate card. And we'll take a look at how some of those mechanisms work as we go through it. But basically, those are some additional capabilities that the backbencher has. They have these other offices that allow them to grow in importance. They have the capability to resign and oppose the government if they wish, whatever. The opposition leader, very similar. He has his own debate card because he's able to oppose the government's bills. And so here, campaign, we have these letters on here. Those are going to correspond with these. So G is gentry, I is Ireland, M is middle class, as things that we have an effect on. I had that over here. Campaign, I think, is always going to be a set of popular groups that you have that capability to do something in. And, the effect is to increase the amount of support you have there. Looking to see if there's anything too exciting that I want to talk about. Okay. There's decks of cards. Let's talk about bills first. When the government will be either liberal or conservative. When the government's liberal bills and cross-party bills are available. When the government's conservative, you replace the liberal with the conservative bills. That's all that the government will propose. Unless there's something special, you're not going to be able to bring bills in opposition to the ruling party up on the table. Events get drawn. Here, draw an event card at the start of your action turn, and they influence what's going to happen on that turn. And we'll see how they work. I have not studied them at all. Supporters are people that you're able to hobnob to get, and you can get that as a backbencher as well. Supporters are going to be able to provide you with additional capabilities. And again, we'll look at that as the rules go. The uncertainty, I know they're used in the elections. They might have other points in them. I want to talk a little bit about this deck. Every time it's used, you reshuffle it. It's 18 cards. I don't really care about how big it is. I'm going to probably pull a 20-sider out and just roll a die. Like I did with Clash of Sovereigns, which, man, was that a disaster. Just the production. I'm convinced GMT is going downhill heavily in quality control. This game does not restore my faith, but at least so far, it looks like it's pretty solidly put together. It may be that they're focusing what limited best resources they have in quality control on what they see as their biggest games, right? And that they're kind of, shunting the wargaming side of things away, which means that they're going to be starting, that maybe they're falling from what I would say had been the preeminent in terms of customer service. I don't know about quality. It's hard to tell because everybody's going to fuck up stuff somewhere or another, right? But they, by their customer service policies of providing you with free replacement parts, including to the level of starting with One by the Sword, and Clash of Sovereigns had to do it as well, of like, hey, here's a rulebook reprint. We really fucked this up. They may have fixed it in One by the Sword. I don't remember. I don't remember if I played with the updated rulebook or not. I know I waited for the updated rulebook on Clash of Sovereigns, and it did not fix anywhere near the majority of issues. Like, they wasted their money printing all that stuff. Anyway, it's still a badly, like it's in need of complete reworking in a lot of ways. Anyhow, I think it's horrible to have to reshuffle a deck. All these cards feel like, yeah, they're the armored GMT cards. I have my complaints about them. I'm not going to keep reiterating them, but they're much worse than lower sort of tier GMT games, which end up getting more flexible cards that are easier to shuffle and less likely to get damaged. The rulebook itself is interesting. You know, I don't know. I'll take the clockwork rules here. If pencil takes on these, and if it's erasable. I think it does. I don't think it's perfect, but it's, let's see if it erases. Mostly. It's not normal paper, it's not glossy paper. As long as you can get a pencil mark to go on it and can erase the pencil marks, that's sufficient for my taste. It's got an interesting like slickness to it that like normal paper wouldn't have, just a teeny bit. It's got a pretty kind of marbling running through it just as a background coloring and whatever, which is appealing visually. I actually found this rulebook to be pleasant in appearance and whatnot. We'll see how it works as I'm playing through the game, but in terms of reading, it felt like the rules made sense. When I picked it up and felt the weight, and that it's 68 pages long, I was terrified about what I had, and ended up, it's why I ended up playing the last game I played, the Astro Navis, or Navigus, or whatever, Merchant, because I was like, well, shit, I'm not going to make it through 70 pages of rules. Well, it ends up at significantly less than that. And there... I don't know quite how to put how I see the rules so far. So we're going to see how they develop during play more than anything else. Anyway, I'm going to make myself a little bit more room here. And we're going to settle down and start into the rules intro here. Yeah. This is probably the point where a lot of people drop off because it's going to get real boring real fast. Sometimes I like to break it into two. Should I do that here? Should I do that here? See, I don't feel like I've given you the mechanisms. I don't know them well enough to give you them off the top of my head. And I feel like I'm going to have to go through the slow and tedious reading to give them to you. But anyway, if you want it quick and easy, you wouldn't be here with me. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and then we'll dive into the rules.